Alright, y'all. So today I wanted to quickly review and give you my thoughts on Smallville Season 2. I just recently finished watching this season and just kind of wanted to give you my quick overall thoughts on Season 2. Just a little bit of disclaimer. I don't have too much knowledge ahead of Season 1 and 2 as I'm currently just giving you my reaction to the series as I go along. That being said, my quick thoughts on Season 2. Personally, I really like Season 2. I actually really like it a lot more than Season 1. I think this is actually a much more major of an improvement compared to Season 1. I liked Season 1, but there was definitely some issues with it, and the formula of the show with, like, the Kryptonite Freak of the Week kind of thing that was going on was really tiring as the season went along. So I was really hoping Season 2 would shake things up, and it does. Now, I wouldn't say that, like, this is like a complete 180. Like Season 2, like everything about Season 2 is better. I would say it's more of a gradual improvement compared to Season 1. Like there are still some episodes in this series that are kind of like revolving around kryptonite and deal with like the kryptonite turned monsters, but unlike the first season, which was that's pretty much 99 to 95% of Season 1, this season on the other hand has a lot more varied stories. Like there's stories with different ideas and different concepts, and some of them don't even revolve around kryptonite, which, I mean, as a writer, oh my god, that's such an incredible idea. Of course, I'm just saying that sarcastically. So like I said, more of an improvement compared to Season 1, absolutely. In terms of all the acting in Season 2, Tom Welling does a great job. All the main actors from Season 1 are back. And I think in general, all of them do actually a little bit better of a job than they did in Season 1. I thought all the performances were a little bit more complex, more layered. Maybe, like I said, I don't know, that's just due to the fact that the writing has improved or maybe the direction. I'm not quite sure, but I feel like all the actors are doing a really good job and giving great performances. I really like Michael Rosenberg as Lex. He's just doing a great job as usual. The woman who plays Lana, and especially the woman who plays Chloe, which I believe her name is Allison Mack. I mean, doing an incredible job as Chloe, and I really enjoyed her performance throughout the series. And even the guy who played Pete. Pete's actually one of the few characters that actually gets a huge upgrade in this series compared to last season. So I want to get into a little bit of the pros, and then near the end, I'll probably give you some cons, and then my overall opinions. So first for the pros, like I already mentioned, the plots and the writing of this season compared to the previous season, which was Season 1, is just a lot more better. There's just a lot more interesting stories, and not all of them have to revolve around kryptonite. For example, there's some really good episodes that deal with Clark's origin. Now, as far as I know, Smallville is the first one to do this with Superman's origin. That is the idea that Clark's origin with his parents and Krypton is a little bit different. In most continuities that I know of, Jor-El and Kal-El, Clark's real parents, are actually good people. Right? They're good people. They're just like scientists. They're one of the few people on Krypton that warned the others about the planet's imminent destruction, and just in general were like scientists. They were good basically good people. And that's usually how it is in most versions of Superman. Even Zack Snyder's Superman, strangely enough. But Smallville doesn't necessarily do that. What really surprised me about Smallville Season 2 was the fact that they really play upon the origin differently. As far, like I said, just from my perspective watching Season 2, near the end, we learn more about Clark's origins. We learn that he comes from a planet called Krypton, obviously, and Jor-El, stored a message in a signal and stored some instructions and ideas in his ship. Actually, a lot more things were inside his biological spacecraft than in previous versions of Superman. But basically, the huge revelation is that Jor-El basically sent Clark here with the idea that Clark's going to come here and conquer this race of humans. He's going to spread the gene of Krypton, and he's going to conquer this planet, and that's what your main mission is. That's why you were sent to Earth, which they don't call it Earth. They call it, like, the third planet of Sol or something like that. I don't remember. But crazy different from the traditional Superman origin story. And there's even more abilities. Like, we find out later in season 2 that Clark's alien ship has like instructions from Jor-El, but also has the ability to like heal people. Like, it heals like Clark's mom's, Martha's, pregnancy. Also, it brands Clark with like a weird, not a Superman symbol, but it's like a 8 inside the traditional Superman crest, which I'm really curious if that symbol, like Clark takes that symbol, which can kind of represent his father and Krypton in general, and maybe like flip it and turn it into maybe like an S. I'm just curious, like, 'cause I'm completely speculating. But the ship has the powers to like brand and supposedly the ability to control Clark. So obviously this origin, and especially with all the Krypton stuff, is really different to traditional Superman lore. I mean, the only, like I said, only continuities I've ever seen that from is the new Superman from James Gunn, which also did that origin, and this show. I have never seen it anywhere else, because in most versions, Jor-El is presented as a good guy. He was a good guy amongst flawed people on Krypton, right? And he basically sent, to space Clark with good ideals to help and save humanity. While here, it's the complete opposite. He sent Clark to conquer this race and enslave it and spread the kryptonite genes, so to speak. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed this origin. When I reviewed James Gunn's Superman, I really enjoyed that movie, trying it out. And maybe, like I said, I didn't even know that Smallville did it first, but I really enjoyed it with Smallville. I've always liked this version of the story because it really breaks down Clark as a character to his core. Because, like I said, it represents like what Clark's humanity is. One of his strongest suits as a superhero, his humanity, right? Clark, in every sense of the word, could have been a hugely destructive force and just to serve a distant planet's mission. But instead, thank God for Clark's parents, right? And thank God for the ideals that he believes in, and choosing the right path becomes this huge savior of all of humanity, becoming eventually Superman. Obviously, it happens different here compared to James Gunn's Superman, which, in that version, Superman's been established for a while. Here, it's just Clark in his origin story. Either way, I really enjoyed this this origin. It's very different from traditional Superman stuff, and no one usually talks about it, but I really like it. Like I said, I like the dilemma it presents. It's just a really interesting idea. I like how the show presents it as well, especially with Jonathan Kent being there telling him that, Clark, you're a good person, you have to make your own future, and no one controls your destiny. Similar to how James Gunn Superman did it, but I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I really like this dilemma. I think it takes a step even further than James Gunn's Superman because, like I said, Clark's alien ship, with Jor-El's commands and instructions, brands Clark and attempts to control him, forcibly doing his will, which is even a step further than what Gunn's Superman did. And like I said, crazy. And how he defeats it is he puts in a kryptonite key from Lionel Luthor and blows up the ship. I mean, what a crazy part, right? Before I get off sidetrack too much, I really enjoyed that new origin, and I'm very interested to see how it develops throughout the series. Now let's talk about other things I really like about this show. There's some really huge standout episodes. I really like all the Jor-El stuff. The episode where Christopher Reeve appeared in, which is a very important episode, by the way. That's the one where you find out Clark's true origins and where he comes from. Amazing episode. I mean, Christopher Reeve coming back as a cameo as this scientist professor researching into this weird alien signal was great. I thought he did a really good performance. I mean, obviously he was stuck in a wheelchair by that point, but I mean, perfect, right? It was a really great episode. In my opinion, probably the best episode of the series is that one. But a really standout part. I also really liked other episodes. I think the whole episode, which was like a two-parter, which revolved around Lionel Luthor and Martha, and by the way, Martha accepting a job from Lionel Luthor, and that kind of like I said, that kind of involves a whole can of worms. And one thing I really like about this season as it progresses is it picks up a lot of story beats from season one and expands upon it. Like Lionel Luthor here is a lot more like a main character in this show. In the previous season, he was here and there, but in season two, he's pretty much a main side character. I think they even put him in the intro because he appears that much in this series, and it's very interesting to see how his plans and his relationship with Lex progress throughout the series, how he kind of schemes things behind the scenes, and you can tell slowly over time he's researching into Clark's history alongside Clark as well, and figuring out what the source of everything is, which I really enjoy that development. And like I said, the actor portrays him is really good. But back to the main topic, the episode that revolved around Martha Kent, which by this point had worked for Lionel Luthor to get some money, which that kind of also opens up another can of worms that I really like in this season. Get taken by some hostages that were originally working for Lex but betray him, and Superman kind of has to come in, or basically Clark, has to come in and save the day. And it was a really cool two-parter episode. I really enjoyed it. It reveals a lot about Lionel, what he's trying to do behind the scenes. There's also a standout moment where Clark jumps the Daily Planet building into Luthor's offices. Amazing moment. I wish he could have flown in that scene, but maybe it's just too early for Superman to fly. But, stand out. And, like I said, sometimes you got to take those little baby steps, and maybe, Clark showing his abilities more and more, which by this point is just him leaping tall buildings with a single bound, so to speak. Amazing sequence. I love it. I also love some of the other scenes and episodes in this series. There was a cool episode with this little girl that Lana knew that was appearing, that apparently she knew as a little girl, but apparently had died, and then she kind of slowly reappears and kind of brings about a whole mystery. But then you find out that Lionel Luthor and this her father, or I guess her original father, before she passed away, cloned her daughter, and it's a whole thing once again with Lionel Luthor scheming behind the scenes. Really good episode. Really enjoyed it. Also, we have other characters like Pete, who I think I briefly mentioned, but he has a lot more to do in this season. In season one, he just kind of sticks around. He's with Chloe a lot of the time. And here, he's Clark tells him his secret. That he is this alien, has all these powers, yada yada. And basically, he's the first character to actually share the weight of Clark's secrets, and basically helps out Clark throughout the series, which I really enjoyed Pete's increased role in season 2, just because it gave him a lot more to do than just kind of hanging around, which I really enjoyed. Chloe and Lana also have a bit more to do. Lana's kind of her developing relationship. She finds out her biological father is, and there's a whole dilemma with that, which, like I said, I like the revelation of biological fathers and their destinies and stuff in this season a lot, and I think she's pretty good in this season. Chloe too has a bit more complexity to her character, because in season 1 she was kind of I have some feelings for Clark, but mainly she's a reporter doing all these things. Here it's the same, but by the end of season 2, they're clearly setting up things with Chloe that I'm not sure how going to work out eventually down the road, right? Chloe has a relation, she's actually in love with Clark. Clark doesn't have the same feelings for her necessarily. And then there's this whole on and off thing with Lana throughout this season, which is, like I said, kind of one of my cons. I like their moments throughout the series. They have, like I said, great chemistry. Especially the episode with another standout episode. Whitney comes back, sort of, but then it's another character from season 1 that can manipulate things due to her kryptonite powers, and that was a really good episode. And the whole on and off thing with Lana and Clark is enjoyable, but it is getting a little bit tiring. And they do finally, at the end of season 2, Lana and Clark finally get together. But then it gets kind of ruined by Clark destroying his biological father's alien ship with like a kryptonite key, and the resulting explosion from that kind of killed Martha's baby, which at the time she was pregnant, which I think is hilarious how the ship, inadvertently helped her pregnancy and it inadvertently killed her baby. I don't know, just a little bit weird. But the whole fallout with that and like the drama that comes with that, and Clark and Lana finally getting together on a serious level. And Chloe's obviously queerly jealous. So like I said, they're trying to set up some kind of love triangle. And then they set up this idea with her working with Lionel Luthor because Chloe is upset that Clark is with Lana. So it's this whole love triangle thing, which I am excited to see where that goes, but I don't know, just kind of curious to see it. Lex Luthor in this show, I kind of forgot to mention him. He's great in this season. I actually liked him a little bit more than season 1. In season 2, he kind of does the same things. He's a really good friend to Clark, but there's, like I said, more things happening with Clark. All of his efforts in the whole drama with like Clark hiding his abilities and doing things behind the scenes is obviously affecting everyone around him. And Lex Luthor, especially in season 2, is becoming a lot more suspicious of Clark. Like, he's actively researching into the Kents and Clark. And obviously this is obviously probably going to blow up in Clark's face at some point, but things are getting more intense with Lex and Clark, and definitely the whole snooping behind the scenes stuff that's going to happen. And I also love the fact that since Lionel Luthor is also kind of doing the same thing, they kind of bounce off each other's ideas, and their whole banter in this series is great. I love Lionel Luthor's and Lex's. Not like they don't have a good relationship at all because they're always backstabbing each other, but I just like their banter. It's really good. And Michael Rosenberg is great as Lex. I also really enjoyed the whole subplot with him finally marrying a woman called Helen in the series, despite getting manipulated by another woman earlier in season 2, which was like a kryptonite-infused weird lady that can like manipulate men, because, that was a thing. But yeah, I really enjoyed the Helen-Lex kind of, subplot. That was pretty good. The wedding was kind of cool, I guess. Obviously, the cliffhanger at the end of season 2 looks like, Lex is stranded somewhere, so we'll kind of have to see where that goes. But, yeah, I really liked this show. It's season 2 over season 1. It's making more strides to the right direction. It's having more interesting episodes, and it's also taking more bold risks with the source material than before. In terms of the music and directing and CGI, it's all really good. The directing's pretty good. The sound effects are good, especially like in some episodes they use like the Superman theme sometimes, which I really enjoyed. The CGI is also better. It's still early 2000s CGI, so it's not like amazing, but it's definitely an improvement over season 1 a little bit, so that's all good. And plus, my standards for this type of stuff isn't usually too high. Also, other standout episodes, I really enjoyed the whole kind of Indian wall paintings subplot, which it is fascinating how that all connects to Clark's alien origin. And Alex, I would love to see more context for that, but I really enjoyed that episode where they kind of explore that stuff, and Clark gets together with like a skinwalker, which I thought her relationship and Clark was really good, and it was tragic that she died. Like, not gonna lie, I would have loved to seen her continue in the series, but we have Lana and Clark's thing going, so oh well. But I really enjoyed those episodes as well. They also there's like a lot of episodes in this series too where characters just like don't act like themselves. And some of these episodes are really good. Some of them I just felt like, they're a little bit annoying. Like, the red kryptonite ones where Clark wears, like, red kryptonite, which I don't know if it was a comics thing, but red kryptonite in this series basically makes Clark act super irrational. Basically, he becomes a bully Maguire in a lot of ways, but obviously not as infamous as in Spider-Man 3. It just becomes, like, a really crazy, irrational version of himself. But I enjoyed those episodes. I also enjoyed some other episodes that dealt with like other things like parasites, and There was also another episode where like it dealt with, like, oh, this lady claiming that she's the son of like the mother of Clark and Lex, which that was a little bit crazy of an episode, but I also enjoyed that one a lot. So yeah, like I said, in general, the episodes in season 2 are just better than season 1. There's less of the Kryptonite Freak of the Week stuff and more of just interesting, more compelling stories. They try other story structures and plots for episodes. Like I said, the whole parasite thing, the red kryptonite thing, the biological mother thing, and of course the Clark's origins thing. All these things stand out and are different from season 1, which obviously is a big improvement. Now let's get into some of my cons. Like I said, I like season 2 a lot more than season 1, but it still isn't perfect. It's not like a 10 out of 10. Some of the things are a little bit weird. Like some of the Kryptonite Freak of the Week stuff is a little bit weird to me. There's an episode where this lady kind of manipulates Lex into marrying her, and like dead ass, like how like Clark gets his heat vision in the series. Which, by the way, I really like the fact that they introduce a new power of Clark's in every season. Like, it makes sense. But in this season specifically, Clark gets his heat vision because he stares at a teacher and it just accidentally blows up the projector screen. I don't know about that revelation, man. Like, I get he's a teenager and all, but I just feel like, come on, guys. There could have been a cooler way that we could have revealed Clark's heat vision instead of that scene. In season 1, it was funny with the X-ray vision. Like, that's a scene I probably would have done if I made Superman into a TV series and if he was a teenager. But in season 2 with the heat ray vision, I don't know. And in general, there's a weird theme of like episodes where characters just be getting manipulated by something and they just be acting crazy. And it just becomes a weird constant trend without season 2. And I'm just like, that's a little bit weird. I wish there was less episodes of that idea. Like I said, the Red Kryptonite ones with Clark were fine, but then it kind of gets a bit annoying with other episodes trying it out, like the Parasite and stuff. What else? I think personally, other cons, I really liked the new origin story with Krypton and Jor-El and stuff and Clark. I mentioned that a lot. I do think, and like I said, this is more of a thing where I'm sure they're gonna reveal it as the series goes along. But it feels like this ship, like Clark's ship, can do like a lot of things that like the regular Kryptonite, the Kryptonian alien ship, probably couldn't do in our most Superman comics. So I wish there was more of a parameter of like what it actually could do and cannot do. And also the big episode where Clark learns about his origins and stuff. It kind of gets forgotten about in the next episode, which I really don't like. In my opinion, after I think it was episode 17 in season 2, they should have really followed it up with like a part 2 that dealt with everything. And I know they deal with it later on in the season, but it just feels really weird that they just kind of jump away from that, and then just a few episodes down the line we deal with it more. Also, I think more like showing Krypton, maybe showing more of Jor-El, maybe showing more of like a backstory, I think also would have helped, the ship and like the whole scenes with like the origin story, which like I said, I'm sure we're going to get more of as the series goes along, but I would have liked maybe like one flashback to Krypton or something, which I'm sure it was probably because of budget reasons. You can't do it on a TV show, but just a little nitpick, not too crazy. There's also kind of a weird scene, like I said, the love triangle stuff with Chloe, Lana, and Clark. I hope it goes well. It's more of a thing we're going to have to see how it does in season 3. But the idea that Chloe might be working with Lionel Luthor as a way to backstab Clark, I don't know. We're going to have to see how that turns out. And, I like the fact that Lana and Clark finally get together, but then it gets ripped apart. I really hope in the later seasons that they finally address it with Clark and his relationships. Like, he gets together with someone and it's permanent, which hopefully becomes a thing in later seasons. Because this whole will they, won't they is getting a little bit annoying, of course. And another, slight nitpick is you gotta have a scene where the character and the female are kissing, and the other female who likes that guy walks into them. They do this again with Smallville, and I'm just like, it's like, You could have not done that scene. Like every movie, every TV show does that. And I I don't know. It's not a huge bad flaw, just a little nitpick, but I just kind of wanted to point it out. But yeah, overall, season 2 of Smallville, a major improvement over season 1. Just more interesting episodes, more interesting plots and ideas, more interesting writing, visual effects, and moments. And of course, radical but awesome new changes to the Superman War as well. I'm very excited to see what season 3 is going to entail. And yeah, I just want to give you my quick thoughts on Smallville season 2. Hopefully, you all have a nice day, and peace, y'all.